The confirmed Palestinian death toll has passed 20,000, with thousands more bodies believed trapped under the rubble. Almost all of Gaza's 2.3 million people have been forced from their homes, most of which have been destroyed by Israel. 154 Israeli soldiers have been killed since they invaded Gaza. 1,200 Israeli soldiers and civilians died on October 7th, many of them killed by Hamas, but an unknown number were killed by the Israeli military. For the latest on this, let's check in with our correspondent Noor Harazin in Gaza. Noor, what updates do you have on Israel's military operation in Gaza?
Well, talking about the Israeli land invasion in the Gaza Strip, the Israeli tanks started apparently its incursion in eastern middle Gaza in places like eastern Al-Bureij camp here on the ground. And in the past 24 hours, 40 people were reported killed in middle Gaza in Deir al-Balah, Nuseirat and Al-Bureij refugee camp, including women and children. In Khan Younis, just an hour ago, was the last strike where 3 Palestinians were killed. 20 people in total were killed in Khan Younis city over the past 24 hours. Still, we did not get a specific number from the Palestinian medical sources in northern Gaza, but yes, we are talking about around 100 Palestinians that were killed over the past 24 hours here in Gaza. According to the Palestinian Health Ministry, and in a joint statement with the governmental office, the media governmental office here in Gaza, they said that the death toll in Gaza since the 7th of October is now up to 20,258 Palestinians killed. 70% of them are women and children. However, what is really busying the minds of the people here, the Gazans on the ground, is the talks about this newest Egyptian proposal about a ceasefire, a humanitarian truce. The Egyptian sources and the Egyptian media talked about 3 parts ceasefire, where in the first part Hamas will be releasing 40 Israeli hostages, while the Israeli side will be releasing 120 Palestinian prisoners. Then Egypt will work on reconciliation efforts between Fatah and Hamas. It is still not 100% clear yet. However, this news is really taking over the minds of people here in Gaza. They are very thirsty for a humanitarian truce where they can at least walk around Gaza freely and go back to their homes.
Noor, Israel has issued yet another warning for civilians in Gaza to evacuate. How's the evacuation going?
Well, yes, 72 hours ago, actually, the Israeli army thrown leaflets on Palestinians residing in Al-Bureij refugee camp, asking them to evacuate to Deir al-Balah, where I am right now. And this is actually the first evacuation order for this specific area over the past 72 hours. And even though this safety evacuation order was active, but the Israeli military launched several strikes. Several shells also landed on Al-Bureij refugee camp, killing 28 Palestinians during the past hours. However, there is still a big number of people that are actually still inside their homes in Al-Bureij refugee camp. The reason why they did not evacuate because they have nowhere else to go, and because the situation in the refugee camps now in southern Rafah and eastern Khan Younis is really bad. Looking at the humanitarian situation inside these camps, there's zero infrastructure, no running water, no electricity, no network. So people would actually prefer to stay in their homes under the heavy fire than going to the unknown.
Our Noor Harazin live for us in Gaza this hour. Noor, thank you for that update. Rising tensions in the Red Sea, one of the world's busiest shipping routes, continues to disrupt global trade. Major shipping companies have been forced to take detours around the Cape of Good Hope, leading to an increase in costs and greater delays. It's feared that the deteriorating security in the Red Sea will ripple through global supply chains. The narrow stretch of water serves as a vital trade artery. The Red Sea connects the Suez Canal with the Indian Ocean. It's the quickest shipping route between Asia and Europe. It handles around 12% of global trade and comprises 30% of global container traffic and 40% of Asia-Europe trade. Each year, about 17,000 ships go through the Suez Canal. The route is particularly important in the transportation of oil and liquefied natural gas. Some 12% of seaborne oil and 8% of liquefied natural gas traded worldwide pass through the waterway each year. The disruptions of the Red Sea shipping lane may take its toll on Egypt, which runs the Suez Canal. Our Adel El-Marouki reports from Cairo.
The Suez Canal is one of Egypt's main sources of national income and foreign currency reserves. This year, its revenues reached a record $9.4 billion. The route captures about 12% of the volume of world trade. That's over 1 trillion worth of goods per annum. And the Suez Canal Authority plans to pass the 15% mark within 2 years. Egyptian authorities says they are closely monitoring the impact of tension in the Red Sea following the attacks by Yemen's Houthis on vessels in the southern part of the basin. 4 of the world's largest shipping companies, which make up about 50% of the world's vessels, have said they're temporarily pausing navigation in the Red Sea. So far, the Suez Canal Authority says only 55 vessels in total have avoided the route in the past month. Out of more 2,000 ships, the figure is insignificant. But due to the increase in Red Sea attacks, more shipping firms are now choosing the longer path around Africa to connect Asia with Europe. This is bad news for the global supply chain, as alternative routes will add 10 to 14 days to standard shipping time. And if this pause in navigation stretches into the long term, the toll on the Suez Canal is only expected to grow. Adel El-Marouki, CGTN, Cairo.
And for more analysis, let's speak to Professor Wang Jin from the Institute of Middle East Studies at Northwest University. Professor Wang, welcome to Zoom In today. A senior Iranian military officer says the world is demanding justice for Israel's destruction of Gaza. He said the U.S. and Israel should expect the Mediterranean Sea to be closed to them if the bombardment continues. Is that a possible scenario, Professor?
I don't think it is a possible scenario, because given that the Mediterranean is a very, very important part for not only for the global shipping channel, but also for the international politics, especially for the West, it is very unlikely that the closure of the Mediterranean could happen. But we have to know that this kind of remarks or this kind of expression suggests the very growing of the distrust and rivalries, and especially the hostilities between the different camps in the Middle East and also in the relevant countries, because we have already witnessed that now after the tension grows in the Red Sea, different parties stand out to blame each other for the responsibilities behind these kind of attacks and for this possible measures to manage and control the escalation tensions in the region. So that is why we always say that we have to keep our attention over what might happen next and what could erupt in the future to help and encourage the mediation in this region to prevent the further escalation of the tension there. Zhongshu.
Professor, the UN Security Council passed a resolution calling for more aid to Gaza, but it failed to call for an end to the war, which is causing this humanitarian disaster. So will this resolution make any difference at all on the ongoing situation, and can it be truly implemented?
Well, the United Nations resolution is a very, very suggestion, and also the kind of the feature from the international society. It suggested the unity for the international society to express the very shared attitudes and shared opinion towards a certain issue. So that is why if we understand from that point of view that United Nations resolution is very critical. But then we have to know that during this war, I mean, this round of the war between Israelis and Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, that Israel right now, it is Israeli determinations and Israelis' willingness, as well as the Hamas willingness and also the Hamas determination to end the war really matter. not the external pressure. So external pressure might work, but especially United Nations resolution might work, but it has to be transformed into the actions of both Israelis and Hamas and other militant groups in the Gaza Strip. So that is why, on the one hand, the international unity is important, but on the other hand, mediations and negotiation organizations are really highly needed right now to facilitate this process. I mean, the process for peace and process for ceasefire immediately.
Russia condemned the resolution, accusing the U.S. of watering it down so much that it was meaningless. And most countries in the Security Council supported Russia's amendment that called for an urgent ceasefire. The U.S. vetoed it. What do you make of the U.S. role in all of this, Professor? How are U.S. actions affecting efforts to address the crisis?
I think United States' role is also very could play a very, very important role, but actually United States did not and hasn't. Because United States, they has the very, very strong capabilities to influence the decision-making circle inside Israel, and also United States military supplies is very crucial for the continuation of Israeli military actions in the Gaza Strip. So that is why United States, they can do something if they really want. But then what is happening right now is that on the one hand, United States continue their supplies, military supplies to the Israeli military forces and to support them in the military actions against the Gaza Strip. And also United States, as you mentioned, that they vetoed the resolution proposal in the United Nations. So that is why the United States actually is preventing the coming of the peace process and the ceasefire in the Gaza Strip between Israel and the Palestinians. So that is why we say that the United States, they should reconsider what they are doing and really do something for the peace, for the negotiation and for the ceasefire, and to prevent the further escalation of not only the tension in this region, but also the disasters of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip.
Professor, we appreciate your expertise and analysis as always. Thank you so much for making time for us today. And churches in Israel and the West Bank have canceled their public celebrations of Christmas this year because of the Israel-Palestine conflict. There will be no Christmas trees or sparkling lights in areas normally bustling with tourists. However, churches will still hold some activities to pray for people in Gaza. CGTN's Zheng Sunwu has more.
Shops are shut down in the old city of Jerusalem. In the Christian quarter, no huge crowds in what many say is a bleak Christmas season. We visited the churches but found no one celebrating the season. A consortium of Christian leaders in Jerusalem has asked the Christians to stand strong with those facing afflictions and forego any unnecessarily festive activities. People have been asked to pray for the victims.
This is the oldest church in Ramallah, and it has a history of more than 170 years. Normally, Christians celebrated Christmas in this church every year, but this year, due to the conflict, the Christmas celebration has been cancelled. But there are still some charity activities in this church during the Christmas this year.
In normal times, Christians and even some Muslims who lived peacefully with Christians come to the Greek Orthodox Transfiguration Church to celebrate Christmas together.
من بداية موسم عيد الميلاد المجيد
We have canceled our celebration, but we will pray for the people in Gaza. Our children will come to the church on Sunday and pray for the children in Gaza. They will say in the prayer that they hope troops can stop killing innocent old people, innocent children, and women. Some Muslims usually celebrate Christmas with Christians in the past because we all live in Holy Land, but this year we can celebrate for peace and love, but we all pray for Gaza.
In another Ramallah church, Christmas ornaments and tinsel have been replaced by pictures of children.
Why you want to put those pictures on the wall?
Well, these are some of the pictures of the children who were killed in Gaza during the recent war. And we decided to include them in our Christmas crypt. These are innocent kids who were caught in the middle of this war. And I think it is very important that we remind ourselves of these victims and include them in our Christmas programs.
Church leaders in Jaffa and Haifa have also decided to limit the Christmas celebrations, and many here believe it's the right decision.
You're watching Zoom In on CGTN. Still to come on the program. Donald.
هذا قمة مسؤول